Hey everyone, my name is Jordan Bingham. I'm the CEO and founder of LendSafe, a data security company that specializes in helping mortgage lenders protect their borrowers' data. I just wanted to go ahead and make this video to go through and give a quick overview of a lot of the changes in the GLBA Safeguards Rule that went into effect June 9th of this year of 2023. Anyways, so these are important and significant because they do affect mortgage lenders of all sizes. So no matter if you're a one-man shop or if you are part of a company that has thousands of employees, you're going to need to comply with all of these regulations. So the first requirement in the updated GLBA Safeguards Rule is the update to the qualified individual rule. So what this means is the FTC is requiring that every mortgage lender and every financial company have a qualified individual oversee that company's data security program. This person can be in-house, could be one of your employees, or they can be hired out. But they have a set of responsibilities, in order to oversee this data security program. Maybe most important of which is to report annually to the company executives. And there are some requirements, specifics on what this report could look like. I'm actually going to go ahead and link in the description here an article provided by the FTC for small businesses that are looking to comply with this new regulation, and I find that very helpful. The next thing that all lenders are going to have to do is a risk assessment. This may be one of the larger larger items there, and it's one that I commonly hear from mortgage companies as being one of the things that they're not able to do on their own. That they one of the reasons they do hire outside help. The risk assessment is important because essentially what it's doing is taking a quick look at where do you store all of your sensitive data, primarily referring to borrower documents or borrower data. Where is it stored? How is it stored? What are the risks associated with that, with the way that you store it? Do you have in a central location? Do you have backups? Are those backups protected as well? How many locations are how large is the attack surface for a hacker? And then also looking at what threats exist. And so this is a combination of looking at what are the common threats in the industry that face the industry and face most businesses in general right now, and how do those line up against the way that you operate, the way that you store and process and transmit your borrower's data. The next portion, the requirement, is to securely purge borrower data. This is one that is really important because without effectively purging borrower data, you're leaving that data on the internet somewhere, on a computer somewhere, that if it's ever breached by hackers, that could pose a real risk to you and your borrowers. So some of the important points here with purging data are to make sure that you get every single location that data is stored. So that means if you get a document from a borrower through email, and you download that to your downloads folder, and then you pull out of your downloads folder to work on it, and you send it off to your processor or to a wholesale lender, whoever it is. Well, that document is going to be wherever you saved it on your computer, as well as your downloads folder, as well as your email inbox, as well as your email outbox at that point. And so you're going to need to make sure that when you're purging borrower data, that you touch on every single surface of every single place that those documents could be stored. You should be doing this. How often you do it is up to you. I like to set reminders quarterly to make sure that our clients are purging borrower data as often as is necessary, but not necessarily so often that it's a weekly thing or so. You can also, depending on your setup, set rules to automatically purge data, and also a lot of lenders, depending on where you live, the amount of time that you're required to, depending on where you operate and do business, the amount of time that you're required to keep this data before purging it differs. So in some, Utah, for example, it's 4 years. In other states, maybe 2 years. So it's important to make sure you're aware of what the requirements are for any state you operate in. depending on how that data is stored determines how you purge that data securely. So for example, if this was 20 years ago and you had all of your folders and your hard files in your filing cabinet, it's pretty easy because you go through and you throw them all in a fire, or you put them in a cross shredder or something that can truly get rid of that data and make it so no one can recover it. In the digital age, it's a little bit more complicated because, again, there are so many different locations that the data could be located. So you need to make sure that you're covering all of those. I would just be cognizant of what devices you use to download and access borrower data. So, for example, if you're working, if you're working from home or from a hotel lobby somewhere, you forgot your laptop, I don't advise just popping down to the lobby and using their public computer right there to access borrower data and download documents and whatnot, because that potentially isn't going to that leaves avenues for that data to get into the hands of the public or other people that you didn't mean for it to get into. Anyways, how you do so securely is again, it differs from medium to medium, but the important thing here is making sure you hit every single one of those places that is stored. So, cloud server that you have files on, or your local desktop computer, or a backup server you have, or whatever it may be. The next big requirement is test your safeguards. This one is, and the language I think they use is something along the lines of let's see here. It's to regularly monitor and test the effectiveness of your safeguards. So they basically say that you need to make sure you have an idea of any the security standing of your network. So you can either do this by monitoring your network. You can do that by installing a SIM software to look at all the data that comes in and out of the network. Or alternatively, you can also use vulnerability scans and penetration testing to find vulnerabilities and possible areas of weakness in your technical setup and remediate those. This part is also a little bit difficult for some mortgage lenders to do on their own without hiring outside help, though it is possible if you have someone who's technically capable enough in your an IT person or something like that to set up vulnerability scanning for you, or to set up something like that. Another thing that we like to throw in there is phishing simulations, because this is also testing your employees and their responses to common phishing emails and scams that we all receive commonly. But essentially, vulnerability scanning is the act of pointing a vulnerability scanner, a device, a computer that is probing your network, looking for weak points that a hacker could use and in order to gain access to your network, or to do something malicious with your network. Penetration testing is a little bit more in depth than that. It's typically it includes additional steps to try and really break into your data systems, or to try and actually go and use those vulnerabilities and exploit them to get in and to do what a hacker would do, and then report back to you. Another huge requirement is the data security training and to train your staff. This is we all obviously do quite a bit of continuing education training and credits every year. And so unfortunately, this is just another thing that we have to throw in on top of that. They do require that it be data security specific. So a lot of times that continuing education training isn't going to cover it, and that it be based on relevant threats and kind of anything that the mortgage industry is seeing a lot of. So right now, I would say there's a lot of phishing emails that are going out pretending to be a title company or whatever it may be to get you to download an attachment. So making sure that your employees are aware of things like that is kind of the first line of defense for making protecting your overall business and your borrowers from cyber threats. An important part of the data security training is that you have record of the training completion. So, and this goes for most of these points. The more that you can have on record, the better. So that if you ever are audited, or if there is, worst case happens and you end up dealing with a breach, then at least you're able to go back and have record of you doing all the right things. There's no way to completely eliminate risk and cyber risk. But the point of all this is just to do your best to mitigate it so that the chances of it happening to you are as small as possible. Another requirement is that you monitor your service providers. So this is any of your third-party partners that have that interact with or have access to any of your borrower's data. So this, a lot of times, we can sit down and think about, okay, what companies do you share data with? It's your wholesale lenders. It may be your LOS. It may be appraisal management companies, insurance companies. These are all the types of companies that you want to make sure you're not using. If you are using a smaller company or one that you're not sure if they're this data security practices, you want to make sure that you ask the questions you need to in order to get to find out, are they at least at the very least also making sure that they're in compliance with some type of security framework. Some companies that people don't think of often when they think of third-party providers or third-party partners are like CRM companies, or sometimes you have a company that tracks a customers, if their credit scores, or if they pull credit. Any of those would be included in here as well. And then the next requirement is that you have an incident response plan. And this is a written incident response plan that you have to have and make sure you keep updated. The incident response plan actually has quite a few requirements. So I would refer you to when you're actually creating this, especially if you try and do this on your own, to refer to the FTC's article that I have linked in the description below, because it really does a good job of laying out some of the main points and things that you want to make sure you cover. They say that you must cover the goals of your plan, the internal processes that your company will activate in response to a security event, clear roles, responsibilities, and levels of decision-making authority, a process to fix any identified weaknesses, and procedures for documenting and reporting security events, as well as a bunch of other things. But essentially, the main purpose of its incident response plan is so that if the worst case scenario happens, you log on, or one of your employees logged onto their computer in the morning, and they get a screen saying, "Hey, your files are encrypted. In order to access them, send us this data." Or maybe a borrower calls and says, "Hey, I just got an email from you. It looks like it's from your email address, and it's telling me to send the money to this bank account. Should I do that right now or not?" And you realize it's fraudulent. Those are common things we see happen all the time to mortgage lenders. Incident response plan helps you know what to do when that happens. For a lot of people, you think it's never going to happen to me. I'll read about it in the news, I'll hear about it, but it likely won't happen to me. Unfortunately, if no matter what we do, especially for those of us who are not doing anything at all, it's a matter of if, or a matter of when, not if, because it's only a matter of time that something happens that will warrant your response. And if you don't know what to do, you don't already have that plan drawn out for you, then it could end up making a bad scenario into a worse one. And then the last, I believe, that's the last requirement here that we're going to go over is just to keep your information security plan current. This means usually, we make an effort to, with all our clients, we schedule them annual meetings with them to go through all of this, to do another assessment, essentially, to figure out, okay, did anything happen since last year when we did your original assessment and originally created your data security plan, your information security plan? If nothing changed, then we take into consideration, okay, what are the emerging threats? What are new things that are more mortgage lenders are facing in their online as far as cyber threats? And how do we respond to that and make sure that that response is covered in your information security plan. The next one is risk assessment results. So again, we'll do another assessment and figure out, okay, you know, maybe maybe since last year, the risk assessment was updated to include these items, and you know, those uncovered new things that we need to keep to include in this year's version of your information security plan. And then the last one there is that we take into account changes in personnel or operational procedures. And this one really is just because it's important to keep a track of who your employees are and what access they have to what. You know, dividing up access control is really important. Making sure that employees only have access to the data they need in order to do their job is important. And taking, you know, obviously whenever we do an assessment of a company, or whenever you do an assessment of your own company, if that's how you do it, then it's really important to take into consideration what changes operationally you make. And to make sure you update all of your policies and procedural documents so that you have record of that as well. Because you know, when time comes for an audit or whatever, you know, record producing event may happen, you're going to be really, really, really wishing you had a record of every single thing you do to make sure that all of your processes are written down and prescribed. So that it's easy for regulators to look through and know that, you know, you're doing everything you can to stay compliant. So you know, that's the gist of it. Obviously I could have spent more time on each of those and really dove into specifics and a lot more details on you know, if you're doing this, if you're using this LOS system software or whatever it may be, then you have to do things this way or whatnot. But really, this is just meant as kind of an overview of the requirements and to give you an idea, if you try and do this on your own, to what exactly you need to do. Hopefully it was it was useful for that. If you are not looking to do this on your own, if you already are doing a million things, you oversee so many parts of your business, and you're not a cybersecurity expert, which most of you are probably not, then you know, I think my company LendSafe is a fantastic fit for any mortgage lender of any size that's looking for kind of a turnkey option. We go in and we implement your data security program for you and maintain that, you know, year after year, month after month. And we do it all for the price of $100 plus $10 per employee per month. So it's, you know, quite a bit cheaper than any other option you're going to look at. And we make sure that we produce all of the records necessary to be able to show regulators that you're doing everything you can to protect borrower data. If you have any questions about this presentation or about the GLBA Safeguards Rule or anything else related to data security and mortgage lending, then feel free to give me a call at 801-382-9567. Or you could also email me. My email address is up on there. Yeah, I'm always available and you know, love helping people in the community out. Anyways, thanks for watching.